we are on camera now, and as usual, I am APT Songs, and to this side over here is
every time.
I try.
Hollywood in the building. How y'all doing? Not that you can respond or we can hear you, but yeah, having a good night, having a good time.
Yep. So we are talking, and we were just chatting before we got on. We were going to do a whole different topic, and then we started talking about religious stuff. And what this stemmed from actually was, the other day I sent a TikTok to my mom, and there was a lady that was on TikTok that was talking about how why it is that she doesn't use the King James version of the Bible. And basically she was saying that during the King James time, a lot of the translations were misinterpreted. The particular language that some of the scrolls and stuff were written in, they misinterpreted some of the words to mean other things. They added some stuff in to like extra flowery language, whereas the previous text was more succinct in what its points were being made. And so I find that kind of stuff fascinating. I find the history of the Bible fascinating. I find the changes in the Bible fascinating, and I find the things that weren't put in the Bible fascinating. And that's right. This dude right here, when we were back in our college days, he was very much regular, go to church every week. I don't know how many times a week, you can tell that part, Joe, but like he was very much entrenched in the Bible and reading this stuff. And so the knowledge he has about the Bible and the stuff that's in it and the stories contained within it are just fascinating. So I figured you guys find it fascinating also. So we'll start out with, in reference to the King James stuff, like what do you know about the King James version, the New International Version, that like people at home might not know about? Or
I was going to ask more about what so her primary thing was the translations that you were saying, like.
Well, it was translations, but also like I said, like they were adding a lot of language at the time that was like flowery, so it would be a more wordy Bible. She said that because of, a lot of times the Bible is used as a tool to try to push certain agendas or to keep people in certain types of control about things. And so, I mean, it's King James, so he's trying to take things out, put things in that will allow people to believe a certain thing to fit whatever his agenda was, which mystery happens quite often. So,
like I've always been aware of the different translations and people, kind of choosing what they feel, or I kind of got into the place where I feel like you should look at a couple of different ones and kind of look for similarities. So, because there'll be simple, like a word that could mean, for instance, like love in English just means love, but it could be like 3 or 4 different, like the Bible might be agape, or like phileo, Philadelphia, the whole brotherly love versus the unconditional love versus like the parent-child love, or like romantic love. Like love has a lot of different meanings. Yeah. So if you just translate it to this one thing, it's like, does it really say what it's supposed to say? For me, that point was made the strongest reading The Prince, Machiavelli's The Prince. I got just the paperback. I was at the airport and I grabbed it, and I was reading the intro, the prologue. Is it the prologue? The first, like before the book? And the guy went into it. He was like, dude, translations are a beast. Like there's a lot you got to worry about. So he was like, while the book is titled The Prince, because that's what it is, I don't feel like it's relevant to modern day. We don't really have princes, like, especially in this country, we don't have a prince. We don't understand what that really means in the social context, the way that they would have when the book was written. So it's more now like the leader, or, like the president of the company, the CEO, the person who's in charge of other people, but it's still not to the same power level that a prince would have had. So he left the title of the book, The Prince, because like in the translation, I'm going to use more familiar words that will strike the people reading it today much better. And so when you apply that same logic to the Bible, I know for me, when I'm reading these, thous, thus saith, it's not
weird to me. Like, is that they talking back in Israel? This book written like,
well, they didn't speak English, so probably not. But the church in America is so used to it that it's like, well, that's the holy language. You know what I mean? Like that's what how the Bible's spoken. You gotta really know a few different languages to read the Bible in its original language, and then sort of go from that to translate into a dialect that's no longer common tongue. So then we have to kind of interpret what that means to what we would say today. It's a lot of extras, whereas you can get other versions that are more directly translated. And not to mention, there's versions that are translated into another language and then translated into English, things like that. So it's like it's a lot going on, you know. So
Yeah.
kind of agree. Like I don't know that any one translation has it right, but there's like concordances or there's different versions of it where you can actually look at 3 or 4 different ones. Parallel. I think it's called the Parallel Bible. It's got like 2, 3, 4 different versions, and you can see where this one says, you know, he ran fast to the well, and this one says he briskly walked to the watering hole, and then this one is like he got something to drink from the fridge. Like it's it's kind of saying the same thing, but it's a little different. Okay, I was joking about the fridge one. That's not in there, but you see what I'm going with. Like it's kind of saying the same thing. So when you look at a bunch of them, 2, 3, 4 of them match. Okay, that's probably kind of the lane that they were going for, and this one's like way off over here.
Yeah,
I'll probably kind of, you know.
And it's interesting because, like, depending on the translation that the preacher or whoever it is teaching, it could have a vastly different meaning depending on how they go about it. For example, I do remember in the video she said that there's in the translation there was a word that actually means age. Like, so there were parts of it that says like, you know, this is going to be the end of this age. Mm-hmm. But it got translated to mean to say world, not age. So the end of an age versus the end of the world is different because they were saying, you know, for example, Jesus will come at the end of an age of time. Okay. And then it got translated to Jesus is coming at the end of the world. That's vastly different if you don't know what that is.
So the thing with that is the Bible says a lot of weird stuff. Like just for me, it was easier when I went to church and listened to what the pastor said and took the lesson and went home. And then you're encouraged to read your word on your own. And I'm the type that likes to dig in and study and research and, you know, figure some stuff out. And when you start doing that, it says a lot. Like, there's a lot in there. And it gets really kind of like, wait, what? So even stuff like that, like, okay, Jesus is coming in at the end of the world or the end of the age. If you look at it, when you really read the end times prophecy, this earth and this existence isn't the last existence. So it always has talked about, everybody's like, oh, you die and go to heaven. There's a heaven, there's a hell, and there's also a conversation about a new earth. And no one ever really wants to talk about that part. But Jesus is supposed to come back and rule on earth. Like Satan has a minute that he rules, and then Jesus comes and he rules. And then it's just, okay, we're going to start it over and make it better. And then the believers are supposed to rule the new earth at some point. And you really never hear that part talked about because it's like kind of a, I want to say like John and Revelations, like towards the end. Yeah. And a lot of people stay away from those because they get weird. Like it's hard to understand what they meant because it's a lot of like esoteric type of stuff. But so even with that, so if we hear something's the end of the world, well, okay, that's it. You died, it's over. But that's not what it said. So then what does it mean? And by the time you go through that whole conversation, they're just like, so it's the end of the world? Like, I just want the simple answer.
Right. Because it's such a complicated subject. People oftentimes want to just really dumb down, just get like, what's the main point? And it's like, sometimes there is no main point. It's trying to give you a bunch of different points and our brains can't seem to like handle all those at one time.
So that's the beauty of like the Sunday morning or even like a Bible study. We're going to pick a topic and focus on a topic. And then we're going to go to a few different places and get the theme of how the Bible talks about this topic. And I'm like, all for that. That's amazing. Like that's awesome. But there's more going on. If that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just the whole story. Like you were talking about in college, I spent a lot of time in the church. It started before that. Like I grew up, my parents were taking me all the time. Yeah. I got into it on my own. Like my friends in high school, we would like go to Bible studies, like as a group of friends. Like it wasn't just like my parents dragging me. Like we were all in. So I got to college. They kind of thought I was going to rebel and pull away, but I actually went in further. And part of that was there was a youth pastor there, and I went to, I think it was a Tuesday night. See, like it wasn't just Sunday. It was Tuesday night Bible study for the college students.
Yeah, I remember that. I've been to a couple of them.
And he sat and broke down Jesus through the Bible. And I mean, like, he started in the Old Testament, and people like the Old Testament, Jesus in the Old Testament. But it's like, it says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh in Jesus. So when it's talking about God's Word in the beginning, he took it from that part, from the prophecies, from the, you know, the speaking creation. He took all of that and wove it into the story from Genesis to Revelation and kind of just broke it down in an hour. And I was just like, I've never heard. Like, I was floored. So I was hooked. I was like, teach me everything. Yeah. I was there. You know what I mean? Week after week, multiple days. Like I was all in. Like I need to know all of this. What's good? Tell me what's going on. And I mean, there's a lot. I got a lot out of it, but I also got a couple of offshoots from other places and other contexts that kind of got my attention. And so, you know, it's just something I've been just digging into at random. Like it's just something that's a fascination of mine. I'm always going to continue pursuing that knowledge of it. But
like, I definitely want to know, like, I want to get into like any a numerous amount of things I want to get into in terms of like any fascinating stories about people might not know, or like, you know, things that you feel might be contradictions. But like, what's like one of the more fascinating things you found in the Bible to be like just like a big wow, like, oh my God, this is like an amazing story, amazing fact, or amazing thing that I'm learning about?
The most fun to me was the dinosaurs. And people look at me like I'm crazy, but this was college years. This was like freshman year. We stayed up half the night one time in like the hallway of the dorm, like at the stairs. And this dude was like, yeah, you know there's dinosaurs in the Bible. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, did you been smoking something? What you mean there's dinosaurs? And he took us to Job. And you start reading Job and they describe an animal. And to this day, I don't know what else this animal could have been, but like a brontosaurus, brachiosaurus, he's talking about it's the height of a tall tree with a tail like a tree trunk. And we were like, tail like a what? There's a lot of big animals, but they don't have big tails. Like an elephant is huge with this little tiny tail. Like a giraffe be way up there, but its tail is like, wait, what has a big tail? And so nowadays, YouTube is amazing because you can type this into YouTube and you'll find people breaking it all down. So like, I'm not gonna give you the reference, but research on your own, I promise you'll find it in there. It's in Job, I do know that. But that's where that started for me. But then there's a few other ones too, because there's another area where God is talking to Job about the Leviathan and what was the other one? It was a sea creature, but these aren't animals that are on the planet currently that we see. So I've seen people kind of speculate on what they were, what they could have meant. But I'm like, we have these bones for these giant lizard type creatures that existed at some point. And you're over here like, okay. But according to what we know from science, that this was long before man ever walked the earth. And when you read the story in Job, him and his friends are walking and they're like, look at that amazing animal right there that's as tall as a tree. Are you saying Job saw it alive? That's a trip. So stuff like that you just like, what is this even doing in here?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know why the book of Job made it at all. Like, we can get into that a little later. But like, I've kind of touched on some of the other books that didn't make it in, that got sectioned out. And the more I'm looking at the differences between what's in canon scripture and what's kind of like the stuff that got set to the side. Job should have got set to the side. I'm gonna be real with you. Whoever made the decision to keep Job.
Wait, what makes you think that it should have been set to the side and as opposed to some of the other stuff that was set to the side, which we'll also get into? But
just the message and the theme. Like, Job is a weird book, and you don't really know what to do with it, and there's speculation of when it happened and the chronology of time and all of that. I was watching a video on Job today, which is part of why it's so fresh, but they think they have an idea based on like his friend's ethnicity, like he was from a certain tribe, and then that tribe fell under the timeline in a certain place because they, you know, so-and-so begot so-and-so begot so-and-so. So it was like his friend was was from the tribe of one of Esau's children, basically. So he had to be after Jacob and Esau, after Abraham, Isaac, all of that. Because they used to think Job was like the first book from the beginning of the whole thing. So that was an interesting take. I had never heard that. So I was like, oh, okay. So this kind of does fall later in the story. But it's really just like this whole story about this dude who's doing pretty well and just loving life. Like, things are going great. And then it's this weird story about God having a meeting. And at the meeting is an accuser. And it's like, okay, it's Satan, but like I said, he was kind of breaking down some of what those words mean. There was just this accuser who goes to God, who's like, hey, look, I know you was like praising this dude because he's doing great. And he's like, you know, worshiping you and doing everything you say, but that's just because he's doing great. Like, if his life wasn't so good, he wouldn't be all, you know, the perfect dude. Like, duh. And God's like, man, whatever. Job is real. You know, you could try him. He's going to stand up to it. He was like, well, let me try him then.
Mhm.
And so he goes and tries him, and like he
Kills
took
his family
everything.
off and kills the lands off and all that stuff. Yeah, to where he's down to like basically nothing.
And it's just like, if you reading this story, you like, God, why would you sign off on this? Like, your man was doing good. Like, he was on point, and you like, yeah, go mess with him. What? Really? You can't just be like, everything's going well, let's keep it going. We're going to sit there and like, let's just destroy it. And we're not talking about just like having a bad day. Like, his families get kids, children die. He has boils on his body. Like, he's in physical ailment and oh dude, like he went through it. And all his wife was like, curse God and die. Like, you did something wrong, you messed up, just let it go. And so it's like a conversation between him and his friends about if God is just, because they're like, dude, you must have did something wrong, clearly, because look at you. So if God is a just God, you going through this, what'd you do? Tell the truth, what'd you do? You killed somebody, you know what I'm saying? You slept with somebody, what'd you do? What'd you do to make God mad? He's like, I do nothing. So it's like, is God just? Like, maybe I got it wrong. And that's the conversation that they're having. Yeah. And then God shows up, like literally walks in and was like, look, how y'all questioning me? You know who I am? You know God, right? And then they have this whole little thing where God goes through and talks about all of creation and all the works that he's done. And how could you even understand? And that's where the whole Leviathan thing comes in. We're talking about this like massive sea creatures. Like, could you go up and catch it? Could you do this? Could you do that? Could you tame this thing? Like, imagine like the Kraken, you know what I'm saying? Or like with the video I was watching, they used the dinosaur from Jurassic Park that came up out the ocean and ate the pterodactyl and was like wreaking havoc. He was like, imagine that thing. And he's like, do you think you could just like go fishing and catch it? Could you ride on its back? Could you use its clothes as your skin? That thing would eat you. But I'm in control over that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is what the book of Job is.
And that does make you want to question, because like it's like that story, and then there's other stories in the Bible where it makes you link like, okay, so basically for people that are not believers, I could see how they could look at the Bible and see what they would look at as like inconsistencies or incongruent behaviors and be like, A, either I don't believe this, or B, if I do believe this, God's kind of an a-hole. Like, he created life and then said, hey, I'm going to create temptation for you, but don't touch that. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, now you're kicked out. And then he has stories where like he says, go into this town and kill, get this person's wife. Like all these things, he destroys whole cities and stuff. And it's like, but this is the person we're praising, right? So how does the Bible explain those kind of things, or does it at all? It's just like, just stories that you're supposed to read and get the best parts out of.
I mean, the Bible is really the story of like one group of people and their, you know, walk with God on the earth. And from the Christian perspective, even that group is directed pointing towards the Messiah, who is Jesus, according to the Christian beliefs. I make that point because the Old Testament is shared by Judaism that doesn't believe that Christ was the Messiah that fulfilled that. So they just have the Old Testament, and that is their whole book. And then Christianity has another section, and they were like, yeah, all the stuff that book talked about was talking about this dude. And then they talk about that dude, and then the people who follow him. So the whole thing is kind of a weird setup, to be real.
Yeah.
But because like a lot of that stuff was like, what? So wasn't it about? And then, all right. But it's like, from my perspective, I started in it. You see what I'm saying? And they said like the greatest predictor about your faith is the faith you're born into. Like, you're most likely to believe as the people who taught you believe.
Yes.
There's people who veer off, or like they don't believe as much, or they fade away. But then there's a lot of people who do that, and then like they'll come back later in life when they have kids, and they'll take that and then indoctrinate their kids too, and then pass it on that way. So they might not live their entire life with it, but it's one of those like, you're born into a belief system. And I've heard somebody comment on that. It's like, man, everyone believes they're right, and they have the one answer. And it's really fortunate that you were born into the one that was right. And it just kind of sucks for everybody else. And I was like, that's hard. That's deep. Like, that really kind of stung, but I mean, is he wrong? Like,
I think how many like wars and stuff get started and governments get taken over and fought about like, well, I believe we all believe in, we'll say all these people believe in God. This one has a slant of like, oh, but it's through Jesus. Oh, it's through Buddha. Oh, it's through Elijah Muhammad, and now there's fights about that. And we're all trying to fight for the same top person, but it's the middle guy that's causing all the fights.
Kind of, but even that veers off. Like the three have the same top person-ish, kind of. Mm-hmm. And they're all basically they all come from the same book, the Torah, so to speak. It goes back to Abraham. So Abraham, Jewish and Christian, traces through Isaac and then Jacob, and that's the founders of their faith. Okay. And then from my understanding, I'm not as well versed in Islam, but I believe that's through Abraham's son Ishmael and his descendants. That is where Islam came from.
Okay.
So it all traces back to Abraham. So that means that the beginning books that lead up to Abraham fit everybody. And then it splits from there, and they have a section and they have a section. So I believe generally Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet, but not the Messiah that fulfilled God's plan for the earth that we can only be saved through. They're like, no, he was a cool dude, but he ain't that dude. But he's cool. We like him, but y'all put too much on that.
Oh, wow.
And then I don't know if Judaism accepts him as a prophet or just doesn't really deal with him. They're like, yeah, that's not a thing. Like they're about Moses and Abraham, and like they're on a whole different side of it. And then the New Testament is specifically Christian. So yeah, it's just like, but like I said, I started within that and then started digging through it and trying to grasp it. And but like I said,
I was going to ask you, given that you were, I mean, because I was born into, I'm old school Baptist, born in the South, went to like church every Sunday when I wanted to.
Where your accent, man?
Huh?
Where your accent?
I lived in California also for like 5 years before I moved back to Virginia. So my accent, and I talk too fast at times to have an accent, really, I guess. But like I grew up in that old school South Baptist Fridays and sometimes, Sundays and sometimes Wednesday night Bible studies you go to, and like they're just it's a very interesting thing to grow up in, because you do feel at times as though, if there are other perspectives out there, they so much ingrain you to believe that if you believe any other perspective, you're going to have some major negative consequences. Either it's hell afterlife, or it's going to be ostracization from your community and stuff like that. So in your journey with the various religious things that we're discussing, like, how was it for you when you wanted to seek out, say, maybe other texts to see what they were talking about, or to possibly follow other paths, even to see what those situations were, whether it was like, I mean, it could be anything, like Buddhism, Muslimism. I know you've been studying in the past year, like a lot about, God, I can't think of it. Stars and stuff. Like,
you're go there, aren't you? You're really gonna do that.
Well, because it's just interesting to be like, because like that. Honestly, it's a hard thing for people to like that have grown up in it and have family so close to suddenly be able to go off into other things without feeling like you're going to be letting your family down, or feel like they're going to press you to be like, if you think about these things or read these things, you're going to have these negative consequences. So like, how was it for you?
Well, there's always that, like, if you're not on team with the family's beliefs, you're the kind of the black sheep of the family, and they still love you, but you off on some weird stuff, we'll pray for you, that kind of thing. To be honest, my family was more supportive than I feel like a lot of people say what they went through. My family actually started me on my path. My sister, when I was a kid, started pointing out stuff in the Bible, because she's like super interested in like trivia and random facts. And so we both will like call each other, oh, do you know this thing? Or, oh my gosh, like, we'll talk about the most random stuff. So I might have been like middle school, high school. And she was like, Joe, did you see this in Genesis about the Nephilim? We'll come back to that later. But she just sent me on this offshoot of like, if you read this little 2 sentences in Genesis, and it's kind of important because it's basically the reason for the flood that God used to destroy the earth in the Bible. But there's 2 sentences, and you're like, what does that mean? And you're not going to really get any answers from the Bible, because that's it. You get these 2 sentences, and then we're going to move on like nothing happened and keep it pushing, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this other group of people, not the giants. I'm sorry, the what? Yeah, don't worry about the giants. We're not going to talk about the giants. We're going to talk about this group of people and their journey through the. Did he say giant? So that's been a whole thing. And you got a lot of people like, oh, that's not what it meant. It was a different word that meant this. And no. Don't take that stuff too seriously. What we're talking about is this story right here. And that was really my experience coming up, was like, I got a question about this thing. We're going to stay on focus. We're just going to talk about Jesus. And today's message is this, and stop asking all these questions. And I'm like, but you told me to read it. And when I read it, I had questions. What am I supposed to do with the... And so that kind of goes back to some of like the ancient philosophers, not ancient, but the philosophers of old that we talk about. Basically, they were saying a part of the issue is there's a major emphasis in the faiths to dig in, and there's a major emphasis on the truth and a major interest on read your word and spend time and study and focus on it and understand it.
The self-relationship with God thing.
Yeah. And it's like, it's all good, but once you start doing that, it's some stuff you're not going to understand because the answers literally are not there. And so it's like there's built-in walls for you to hit. So I kind of look at people and they're like, what are you talking about? There's no contradictions. So do you read it or you go to church? Because if you read it,
like you go to the
I don't know how you reconcile some of this on the surface. That's all I'm saying. Like this, and well, you just got to believe God. That's great. But you said you're supposed to understand it. Those are two different things. That's all I'm saying with that. Like, but then I was torn too, because people always ask, well, where do you stand? Or like, what is your take on it? Like, so do you consider yourself a Christian? Do you not? And I struggled with that for a while. It was just like, I don't know what to do with that. But it really kind of comes down to, well, what do those things really mean? And that question is different to me, because I always talk about people that are going to get us in trouble. But Mr. Peterson dove into this greatly, and they always on his head about it. But he did a whole series on Genesis. It was actually pretty amazing. If you got 12 or 20 hours to, listen to the dude talk. It was several different sections, but he talked for a long time. He spent a whole hour-long session talking about Genesis 1. That's it. Not chapter 1, like the first line. And I mean, I was laser focused. What is up? What? And this is recently. After doing my own research, this dude broke it down a little.
Nice.
But he was always like, I hate that question, because like, honestly, what are you actually asking? Because he was like, the first thing is like, well, they're like, do you believe in God? And he was like, well, what do you really mean by believe? And they're like, oh, you're just like splitting hairs. She's like, well, no, because like, do I like think that God is real? Do I believe in my heart? Do I act as though? Because like, to say you act as though the Bible is 100% true, there's a God that's going to throw you in a literal hell if you sin and aren't forgiven for it. Most of us don't act like that, if we being real about it.
That's so true. Even the ones that are like the hardcore go to church, they still, because I think about something simple, like you have like the old lady in church who's like saying, blessed art thou, and yada, 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 but she's also gossiping behind people's backs and saying things that aren't so nice or very Christian-like. Is she, because she's put on the front, going to have a better chance of getting to heaven than somebody that doesn't go to church, but is like treating people with respect and like, going to homeless shelter? Like, where's the judgment call? How's that determined?
Well, then you're going to hear the people in the church will say, it's not about works. It's not about deeds. Well, okay, if you look at the rules, you're going to go back to, okay, what does it say? What it says is you believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and confess with your mouth. I don't have it like I used to be able to just rattle that one off. Yeah. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that he died for your sins. And that's like the criteria. Then that's when you're saying, then you're supposed to be baptized as an outward sign to everyone else to declare publicly. So there's people who act like if you're not baptized, you're not saved. And I'm like, well, it doesn't technically say that. It's like you're supposed to. It's a part of. It's one of the steps, but it's not like you go to hell if you don't get baptized. Like that's right. That's a little technical. I didn't see that. I mean, maybe it was a part I didn't get to. I haven't read every word for word, but from what I read. So then there's the whole, okay, well, I had a friend where I had conversations about this who was an atheist, and he was like, yeah, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe. But he grew up in the church, and he did believe. Well, I said, well, did you believe at one point? He's like, I used to, and then I didn't believe anymore. So did you said the whole prayer, and you confessed with your mouth that Jesus was like, yeah. So I was like, so you might be going to heaven. And he was like, what? He was all offended. I was like, I mean, technically you signed up, because the whole thing is about your name being in the book. Right. And when you get to heaven, are you on the list? It's a club. And I mean, I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but there's somebody at the door checking names off a list. Yeah. So if your name's on the list, Even if you like, oh no. So then there's a whole conversation. Well, can you lose your salvation? Depends on where you read. Because there's some verses that are like, nah, once you believe, you're good. And there's other places like, nah, there's some lines you can cross. Ain't no coming back from. And so the excuse for that was, oh, well, if you fall away, you were never really a believer in the beginning. And I'm like, how do you know?
That's not true, because you could believe some stuff and then something came into your life that made you change your mind. So to say you weren't always that way, that's actually inaccurate.
So then getting back to Mr. Peterson's answer, he would go in circles because he's like, you're asking me to answer something in a sentence or two that would take an entire novel to really break down. Because he's a deep thinker, and I'm like, I appreciate that. Because he was like, what do you mean by believe? What do you mean by God? Like, because okay, who's asking? If I say, do you believe in God? I'm coming from a reference point. So if I'm a Christian, do you believe in the God of the Bible?
Right.
But if I'm a Muslim and I say, do you believe in God? We're not talking about that same God. I'm referring to Allah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So if I say, do you believe in God? And you say yes, now we got to work out what do we mean by God?
Or if you believe in multiple gods, like back in the day, where it's like, oh, you have like the Zeus and the other ones. It's like, then what are you asking? How if they say, well, I only believe in a God, not gods, are you now going to hell by definition of what this person that's asking this question believes in?
It depends on which book we're reading out of. So Bible, one guy. That's it. One guy. But then that brings some other stuff into question, because there's some little offshoots to that. Well, it's like, oh, well, I believe this or we believe that. This book says this the one dude. That's it. All you got. That's all it says. It says it in the book. That's we're going by the book. So there's other religions like the Eastern ones, like you brought up Buddhism. Buddhism is a different offshoot. And like I feel like my life sounds so crazy when I say it out loud. So in college, while I was in church every day, I interviewed some Buddhist monks for a class.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we went to the temple. It was kind of cool. Like they would only eat in the morning before noon, and they were a service to the community. So they would only eat what the people from the community brought them. So we were trying to talk to them about their dietary restrictions. They were like, well, we don't have any because we only eat the offerings people bring us. So whatever they bring us is what we eat. And we're out there till noon with a bowl. And then that's it. So what if people don't bring you stuff? Then we don't eat. And that was right there in Virginia.
Yeah.
I think it was in Norfolk.
Okay.
Or Newport News. It wasn't Hampton. It was like one of the sister cities. It wasn't far. We went to them and like had a whole thing. We were interviewing them. So there's somebody, of course we're going to ask. So like, how do y'all feel about other faiths, other religions? Like, what do you feel about, people who follow other people? He said, honestly, we feel there are many paths to God. So whatever you follow that. He said, if you follow Jesus, follow his teachings, you'll be good. They're not as much focused on an afterlife. They're more about the best life here.
Okay.
So there may be different sets of beliefs within Buddhism, but the one I'm familiar with, they asked, I believe it was Siddhartha, the original, the Buddha, what are his thoughts on like what happens after you die? He was like, I don't know, I haven't died. How about you focus on your life here and making sure you don't do crazy stuff and be a good person? And that was the end of the conversation. Like, oh, okay, so there's the whole like Nirvana conversation and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. I haven't mastered that subject. I got a little piece of it here, piece of it there. So maybe some offshoots people are familiar with. By all means, leave some links in the comments. I prefer video learning. You can say a book. I'm probably try to find an audio book. It's just faster. I just listen faster. I do read. I do. Because people are, oh, you don't read. No, I do. I have a whole library of books.
He does, people. I've seen this place. He does. Yes.
And I have read most of them. They're not just for show. Yeah. There's a few that I pulled because it looked good. But most of them.
Yeah. So given that, well, in talking about the Bible, given that there's so many subjects and ways to interpret the Bible and be able to teach it to followers, people that are preachers and stuff like that, how do you feel about the subjects that preachers generally tend to focus on when it comes to teaching their flock about things in the Bible? Because a lot of it boils down to like either, Jesus being this really peaceful guy or being this really like emotionally understanding guy. some preachers go towards the aspect of like the whole prosperity preacher teaching about like, God wants you to be successful and prosperous and that. So there's various ways, but those are just two examples of like some of the ones that they focus on. So which ones do you think, I guess, we'll start with that. What's your opinion on that?
Well, there's a lot of different themes you can pull out of there. So those are some of the more common ones of, peace, Jesus being peace loving, turn the other cheek. Like you hear all that kind of stuff all the time. I want to address some of the other ones, but I really want to harp on this point for a second because this was a big one for me for a while.
And it was for me too. I know, yeah.
Because he wasn't that peace loving. Like he was, but he rose some hell too a little bit. He rose some hell.
From hell.
I mean, technically, it said he went to hell and came back. So yeah, he rose some hell. But like flipping over the tables at the temple because they were selling stuff they shouldn't have been selling. Like that's kind of bold. Like you ain't gonna walk into like a swap meet and be like, oh, y'all tripping and just start throwing people's tables over. You will get in trouble for that. Like they said he had to sneak out the back and slide away. Like he wasn't just like, oh, let's be happy. Let's talk about this. He said, no, y'all messing up in my father's house. Get this out of here. And they were coming at him like, that was crazy. One of my favorite things that illustrates this point is when they came to get him to crucify him. They said they were looking for him. They found him, Judas betrayed him and all of that. Mm. And so they go to show up to get him and like Judas get a signal and they go to grab him and they said, Peter drew his sword and cut the dude's ear off. And I was like, wait a minute. Peter drew what? He drew the dude. He took the soldier's sword because the soldier, he said, no, they took his own sword. So this dude was walking around with 12 armed men. That's telling me that's 13 men. At least one we know for a fact was armed because that would have been a gun today. They just didn't have guns. So he had a sword, next best thing. So that's a gang. That's what we call gangs. If I walk around with 12 homies and they got weapons on them, you ain't going to be like, oh, these some little punks. And not to mention the dudes that he got. So like, I'm going to just, not all of them, but like the major ones. Usually when you hear about the disciples, it's Peter, James, and John. Yeah. If it's one disciple, it's Peter. If it's three disciples, it's Peter, James, and John. That was like his closest road dogs. That's who was with him when the hardships, Okay. They were fishermen. And we're like, oh yeah, they were fishermen. Like, no. You heard like the term cuss like a sailor? Yes. Oh. Yeah, like, they said James and John were brothers, I believe. They were known as the Sons of Thunder. That was their nickname. Like, I don't know too many punks that you're going to call the Son of Thunder. Like, it sounds like somebody who's loud and, like, breaks stuff. Like, this is your homies? Yeah. And like I said, I just said Peter cut somebody's ear off. He didn't just have a sword. I'm feeling like he might have pulled that once or twice before. Like, he was that one.
He's definitely at practice.
Like, yeah, Peter. So, and it said, he was like, hey, look, drop your livelihood and follow me. And they did it. I don't picture just somebody who's all like unconfident and just really kind of, I don't really want to rock the boat too much. Like somebody who can tell the Sons of Thunder and the dude that cut people's ears off, hey, why don't you stop doing what you do for a living and wander around the city with me? That's not the meek and mild that we get told all the time. Right. Like he would heal people on the Sabbath and look at them like, what you want me to do? They're sitting accusing him like, dude, you messing up. You're not supposed to do that. He was like, he didn't like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. He was like, look, this is what happened. I could have done this or I could have done that. So I made sure they was all right. So it was good. They brought the lady to him like she was caught in a very act of adultery, which is a whole nother conversation. But, according to the law, we're supposed to stone her. What do you think? And he was like, And it said he sat down and wrote in the sand. And then he stood up and was like, whoever hasn't committed sin, go ahead and throw the first stone. And we love to point that out. Mm-hmm. But if you got a mob ready to lynch somebody, they were ready to kill this woman and looked at him like, so what you say? First of all, you have the power to speak to a mob who's ready to kill someone and say something that turns them away. That's deep. Like that's beyond tough guy. That's some next level Like, I respect that. Like,
That's some
dude,
bullshit.
conflict resolution? Like, shit, dude, for real. So that was crazy. Just stuff like that, where it's just like, yeah, Meek and Mild Jesus, he was basically like, I don't want to start a war, but something got to change. To me, he was on that like Martin Luther King. And I don't think a lot of y'all gonna get that either, because y'all learned about the Meek and Mild Martin Luther King.
Yeah, they've definitely used Jesus's images as a way of being able to kind of like take away some of the forceness with which he came, and just it's interesting because I do wonder if part of that's because, at least in today's age, the majority of people that go to church are women, and so it's like preaching the message of, oh, Jesus was this kind person and he loves all of you and he's talking to people in this flowery way. Like, I do wonder if that's to be focused on that audience in particular, because I know for me that doesn't really gel. Like, it doesn't gel if like, oh, he was all just meek and emotional and all this stuff. Like, it's cool, but it's like, I don't think that to preach, like, you don't ever hear preachers talk about the side you just talked about of Jesus.
Well, to me, that's the more the turn or burn type of preachers. Like, we talked about the one message that we get. Then there's the whole you're a sinner, you're going to hell if you don't repent. And then there's that group. That's the ones outside with the picket signs in front of abortion clinics. That's the one. Yeah. Shoot, they got dudes walking down Vegas Strip with a big Jesus sign, you're going to burn in hell. Like, the people that are like in your face with it, like, you're doing wrong.
So they're already burning.
Yeah, hell is like 2 blocks from here. Like, it's really not a game. Like, it's just, it gets hot. Yeah. It's already over 100. We ain't even really. Is it officially summer? Are we in summer?
I'm in Phoenix right now, and when I tell you, like, I looked up the weather and I was like, oh, it's going to be 84 degrees at night. I was like, get the heck out of here.
I think it was 110. I think it hit 110 today. Like, that's insane. Yeah. And we just getting started. Like, late July, August. That's when. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, we talked about the Meek and Mild preachers. We talked about the prosperity. We didn't get into it, but that we need to. And then, like, there's the turn or burn, going to hell. I've kind of sat under different ones. There's I feel like these terms are offensive, but there's the pie in the sky ones, like, oh, this world doesn't matter. Store your treasures in heaven. I hate those so much. To me, that was a little more poverty focused. Like, you don't really need to store up things here, so give it all away. You know, that type of thing. The charity to the point of, like, the poorer you are, the more holy you are.
Yeah, that's like almost that's literally the 180 of the prosperity focus.
Prosperity's newer. That was where we were before.
And I think that probably was age. Well, I think it was probably a reaction for, like, people that were constantly being poor, because they were like, well, I want to make money, but you know what? Like, God wants me to be poor so I can show how meek I am. And it's like they're both two extremes. Either extra poor, or you need to be getting extra rich to be able to please God. And it's like, you could have a middle ground, or you could just, like, teach.
Well, people love to quote that scripture incorrectly, where they're talking about money's the root of all evil. Like, you hear it all the time. Money's the root of all evil. It says in the Bible. Not technically, but it's a great way to get people to let go of their money, because money's the root of evil. So, you know, if you're doing some evil, it's because of money, right?
Yeah, so give it to the church.
Or to whoever's telling you, you know what I mean? But just to clarify, is money, the love of money is the root of all evil? Yes. That little couple of words kind of
right. And it makes sense, because the thing about it's like, that is effectively making money your idol. Just like people that say, like, you know, oh, you need to love and respect the American flag. It's like, I'm not going to love an inanimate object. I'm just not. Like, I like being in this country. I'm not going to love a symbolic gesture of a thing. And that's what people do with money all the time.
There's plenty of people who love inanimate objects. I mean, I don't understand why you don't hate.
Oh my gosh.
That's a different episode. We'll do that one.
Yeah.
We'll do that later. Remind us. But no, like, there's a few places, like, if I wanted to deliver a message to tell you how you having a whole bunch of money isn't good, then I'm gonna start with that. And then I'm gonna go to Jesus's words himself, where he's talking to the rich man. The rich man's like, dude, I did this, I did that. I've been, you know, on point since my youth, and I'm a good person. Like, what am I lacking? What else I gotta do to go to heaven? And he was like, sell all your stuff. Sorry, what now? He was like, yeah, go off and sell everything if you want to make it in. And dude was all sad, like, I got a lot of stuff, bro, like, everything. And he just bounced. He just walked off with his head down. And he told the disciples and everybody there that he was like, it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than for the camel to get through the eye of a needle. And that's deep, bro, because the needle is like,
and the camel's
when
like,
you hear that, you're like, so it said the disciples were like, that's impossible. What do you mean? Like, they were sitting like, whoa. And I've heard people be like, oh, that's not what he meant, because it was like an entrance to a city that was called the Eye of the Needle, and the camel had to like get down on his knees and crawl to get through it, so it was difficult. I mean, I get it. Like that worked for me when I first heard it. I was like, okay, cool. But then when you go back and read it, and you see how harshly they reacted, like, oh my God, that's impossible. Well, that's not how I'm gonna react if it's just a little difficult for the camel to kneel and crawl through. I'm like, oh yeah, that sucks, but he could do it. The disciples immediately after were like, oh man, so who can make it in then? Dang. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of times we try to explain stuff to make it make sense, and then we throw the message off. It really just kind of comes down to like, well, what does that mean? And everyone's like, oh, the Bible is literal. The Bible means every word that it says. It's like, I mean,
well, it's interesting you're bringing that up because, like, you know, the church numbers these days are a lot lower than they were even like 20 or 30 years ago. And I feel like, what do you think? Like, do you feel like the way the Bible's been interpreted or preached, or just, you know, a lot of times people are trying to act a certain way to show that they're religious, but are they actually taking those texts of the Bible and using them to actually better people? Like what do you think has caused the downfall in a number of attendance? Because I used to go to church and I don't really go that much anymore. And part of it was just kind of like, it just, the messages for certain preachers weren't resonating with me anymore, to where I was just kind of like, I can just watch it at home.
Well, for me, I was always more about the intellectual side of it. Like, if it was a pastor that was like on the same couple of messages every week, I'd be over it pretty quick. If it was more, well, let me just directly answer the question. Church is a very emotionally charged event, essentially. Yes. And so part of your men versus women, that's a part of why women are attracted stronger than men are. A lot of the men you see in church are either kind of been in it, that is their world, that is their life. I'm on this path to deaconhood, to pastorhood, to this is the life I'm choosing to live, is the men of the church. The other man you see in church is I'm making up for something. I did something wrong. I need absolution. I need forgiveness. I need repentance. So I'm going to be super zealous for this now because I messed up over here. That's the sinner that's redeemed. And so to me, that's really kind of the two groups, especially older men in the church, fall into. Either you a lifelong member, card carrying, you know what I mean? Like, that is, what's the word? The definition, or your identity is in the church, so to speak, or your redemption is in the church. If you don't fall into one of those categories, a lot of men kind of are like, I just don't need this charge all the time. You know, like they'll pop in when family pushes them to, or, you know, they call them CEM Christians, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day. They'll show up to make the family happy. I know there was a and that's why it's always packed on Christmas, Easter, and Mother's Day, because the uncle, the cousin, you know, you gotta go. It's Mother's Day. You gotta do it to make Big Mama happy, and so everybody go and you get your suit on and you get your testimony.
Which, by the way, why would you want that to be a thing? Like, why would you want to be like, hey, I'm going to force you to do this thing you don't want to do, so you can prove to me that you care about God, even though you don't go the rest of the year? But
well, you got to remember how crucial it is, because like, we're all sinners. It's a struggle. We all backslide, but the ultimate goal is for you to become that redeemed person. And the only way you're going to get there is to hear the word. And, you know, the best place to hear the word is that church. So your soul is on the line. You know what I'm saying? Your spending eternity in heaven or hell is on the line. So yeah, there's people that's going to push. They're trying to save your life. They're trying to save your afterlife. Like, I respect it, honestly. So I'm like, once again, what do you mean by believe? And people hate that you question it, but I'm going to tell you like this. If you honestly believe that my eternal soul will burn in hell for eternity, and you let me miss heaven on some dumb stuff, we're not friends. If that's what you truly believe, now, if that's something that you think you believe, okay, it's not that serious. I don't want to like rock the boat on this friendship for this. I don't want to make people uncomfortable. But that's that whole turn or burn. The people that are out there on Las Vegas Boulevard with signs right now, I could probably go find one. They out there like, you're gonna burn in hell, this is sinful. They're going in. And people look at him like, oh, this dude's crazy. No, he actually believes it. He means what he's saying. He out there like, I don't want you to die in this. He's passionate. I'm like, I respect you for that. Now, do I want to deal with that every day? Like, I get it. Like, okay, I know. Like, I've had people try to like evangelize to me and they're like, oh, you know, the Bible, this about. Yeah. You really want this conversation? We can talk about it. And then we get into it and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. Really? I didn't know. So
like, you already know this stuff. You're trying to advertise it. Yeah.
I just kind of keep it on the low. Like, I typically don't answer the question, but people want to press the issue. Well, what do you believe? Do you believe this? Do you believe that? And they kind of want to like, we opened the box. I didn't quite get into it before I started talking about Peterson, but essentially what I take that question to mean at this point is, are you on my team? Or it's like a friend or foe kind of question. Are you a believer? Are you a Christian? Are you?
It's a very loaded question.
Similar. Are you of the same tribe as I am? That's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
And if you say no, it's my obligation to convince you to join my team. If you say yes, okay, you're an ally. Let's go find somebody else to convince to join our team. Which is part of why I'm like, I don't want to answer the question. I kind of don't want either next step. So let's just, be cool, talk about some stuff. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just I kind of take it more as a cultural thing at this point. So like I would say culturally, I'm Christian. I know it. I grew up in it. I can share experiences with other people who grew up in the church. We can laugh and joke and remember we've shared a similar lifestyle because of our upbringing under the umbrella of this religion. If you really want to know if someone's a Christian, if you really want to know their faith, they're a believer, the Bible literally tells you what to do. Specifically, it says they'll know that we are Christians by our love. And as you look at their lifestyle, you look at how they interact with people. Is this a loving person? Is this a caring person? Well, then what does love mean? Okay, well, there's a whole sermon Jesus gave himself in the red letters about what love is. Patient and kind and doesn't boast. And that whole thing, y'all heard that? You remember that one? So that's like a little checklist. And I really wouldn't use that to hold up to other people like, hell, you don't fit this, and this. That's one for you to look at as I wasn't patient today. I definitely wasn't saying anything kind. That's true. I've been boasting a lot. You know what? I'm gonna have to check myself on this love thing. Like, according to the red letters, I'm slacking in a couple of areas. I need to work on that. That's how I took it. So there's people out there that'll tell you all day, every day, I'm a believer, I'm this and that. And they don't follow none of that.
Right. And how do you feel about people that are hypocrites in terms of like they're saying this way and do whatever, then they're also like, living a lifestyle or they're secretly doing a lifestyle that isn't indicative of the stuff they're chastising other people for?
That's my other problem with it, because like I don't like to live like that. And so people look at me like, oh, well, you're not in the church, you're not this, you're not that, because I personally would feel like a hypocrite. Because I know my day-to-day lifestyle isn't representative of what I would be saying about myself if I was in church every day.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm gonna like catch on fire if I walk through the doors of a church. Like I'll go. It's just a matter of why. I don't think it should be because you twisted my arm to go or manipulated me emotionally to go. I really don't think those are good reasons to go. There are, sometimes it's just, what? I'll just feel like I should go. And I mean that. It'll just be a gut feeling. I'll get like, I should go today. And I'll get something. I'll get something out of the service. Like, dude, I remember this. This is awesome.
I'm always down for the message. Like and it's funny because you were mentioning the emotional part earlier. I do feel like at least the turnoff for a lot of guys is that, we're get to the point people. So I want to go to church. I want to sit down. I need to start talking for 30 to 45 minutes about what you're going to talk about. I get a message. I go home.
That's school. You're talking about school.
And when I was going to church before the pandemic hit, I was going to a church that was near Hollywood or whatever, and I knew that from 9 to 9:35 there was going to be a lot of singing, a lot of praising, a lot of jumping up and down, a lot of crying, all this other stuff to get people emotionally riled up. And I'd show up at 9:35, go in, sit down, listen to the message, go home. Because I didn't personally resonate with like the emotional stuff they're trying to build up. I'm like, I don't want to feel that. I just want to, if I can hear a message, I can feel for myself what I need to feel, then go home.
That is the praise and worship. That is to set the tone and set the mood. And there is a benefit to it. Like, I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend like there's no good that comes from the praise and worship. Like I 100% believe that should be there and that it's helpful.
What's the benefit? What's the help for that?
It takes you out of whatever mindset you're in. So whatever your world is, it helps to bring you out of that so you can focus. So that might not be something you as an individual need, but a lot of people do. A lot of people definitely do. And then 2, it's your chance to participate. You are the one speaking and singing. And there's scriptures that talk about to sing with understanding. So it's one thing just mouthing the words, but if you believe it, you're like pouring your soul or your energy into this. This could rub some people the wrong way, but this is, just what I've come to. But it's been pointed out before that it's very similar to going to a concert. Let's say we go see. I feel like anything I name is gonna.
I think a very popular, well-known artist of some kind.
Well, I was gonna say Jay-Z and Beyonce because we've been to see Jay-Z and Beyonce, and so we're there, and the music starts, and you see the person, and you kind of get excited, and then they have you do stuff like get out of your seat, and, put your hands in the air, sing along. It's an energy exchange. You're putting your being into this moment, and so are they, and it's very similar. There's those who say like going to different artists' concerts is a worship service. And it's hard to argue it because what's different?
Yep.
The difference is the subject matter. But
we got like, DMX did prayers at the end of his concerts. Kanye West would be saying prayers and stuff during
his church service.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to get into that side of the conversation too. Cause like, do you go to Kanye's church service? Like, is it, oh, well, he's a Christian and we just gonna go fellowship together? Or is it, he a little out there with his lifestyle? Maybe that doesn't gel with the faith, the walk of the faith. But then it's like, well, who are you to judge his faith? You don't know what his lifestyle is like. True, but then is this the person who you want as the leadership of a ministry? There's a lot of ways we can go with this.
Yeah.
The church I went to would have been like, that's not cool. Even the DMX prayers, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, he's good. He has prayers on his albums. Do you listen to the prayers? Do you hear what he's saying in the prayers? Because usually it's after the song where he's walking around with his demon homie. And I mean literally, not like his bad homie, the literal demon that he hangs out with. And then he'll be like, oh, but Lord, forgive me. And I was like, oh, maybe that was a journey he went on. Until the next album where he has the sequel to the song with the demon again. Like, so you got a demon homie and God? Like y'all all wrote it. I got a lot of questions, but okay.
If you're going by the content of what he was rapping about,
and it's not wrong with it. We would listen to DMX on the way to church service. DMX, Eminem, Snoop, Tupac, like Jay, whatever was we would bump the radio, we would bump the album versions on the way there, sing the praise and worship, and then bump it on the way back. Like it was just like that's how we grew. It was weird. It was really weird, dude.
And by the way, I do, at least for me personally, I do find it weird that like I'll go to concerts and to your point, the artist goes like, wave your hands in the air, sing the song, blah, blah, blah. I have no problem. I go to church.
And you feel better.
And I'm saying I go to church, same thing happens. Hey, everybody stand up out of your feet. And I feel like, oh, they're forcing me to do this. I don't want to do it. And I'll sit there just like everybody else got their hands in the air and singing along. I'm just sitting there like, I'm not going to do it. And I don't know why that is, why I feel obligated. Why I feel like I have to fight doing it at church, but it's concerts, no problem at all.
Yeah. I've had moments.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of, if you go with it, it's free. It opens you up. And like I said, you let go. Like part of it is like let go of your stress, let go of your worries. And that's the point of it in the church, to be honest with you. They tell you leave your leave your worries at the feet of Jesus or at the altar. You're supposed to come in and cast your cares. And so praise and worship definitely helps with that process. And then the other thing too, on the spiritual side, is it ushers in the presence of God. You hear the worship leaders say that all the time. Like, there's a verse that they always quote where it says, he inhabits the praises of his people. So what they're doing is literally calling for God's spirit to come among the people. So that's why it's like, you can't really like get rid of that part. Like if you're going in purely intellectually, you're missing half of what's being offered. So that's one thing where men, like we were saying, are more on the intellectual, logical side of things. So like a lot of the men there might not believe that they're entering into the presence of the Spirit of God. They're just like, well, we're checking in, we're going to learn some stuff about morality, and then we're going to go home. We're going to go to IHOP after, like that's kind of the, I'm checking it off the box mentality. You were talking about the length of church services. Like I tend to go to black churches, like real for real black churches.
I've been to the services that started at 11 and end at like 2:30.
I've been to services that started at 9 and ended at 2:30. Like I've been to services that were only praise and worship because they just never got to the message. We just gonna stay in the spirit. Like just let the spirit lead you.
The worst thing as a kid is to be like, you're looking at the clock, like, okay, it's 11 o'clock. At best, we're gonna end at 1 o'clock, and then it gets like 12:50. The preacher's like, you know what? I'm just feeling something come over me, and I just want to call people down. I'm gonna just start praying, and you're like, oh no, he just.
Oh no, we got people in the audience that be like, go ahead, Pastor, take all day. We did not co-sign that. Hold on, he said that. Can we do a survey? Do we all get a vote? Like, don't just speak for everybody. Disrespectful.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Like sometimes they be feeling it and they're going in.
So do you feel there's a purpose then to like, because some people have the argument of, well, I don't go to church, I don't do things because I'm not against the church, I'm not against the Bible or believing in God, but I'm against religion. I'm against doing all these showy things to show that I'm supposed to believe this thing, but I don't actually believe that. Do you think there's actually a purpose to some of those religious movements and actions? Do you think it's something that should matter? Like,
no, okay, so this is something else that comes up in all of my research and questioning and trying to dig down to the bottom of things. Like you hit a point where you're like, dude, a lot of this is not what it's cracked up to be. A lot of this feels manipulative, or it feels, there's a shift in purpose. And that's, you can get there staying completely within the word of God itself, between what the scriptures say and what someone at the church is telling people. There can be a discrepancy there. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm an atheist and this and that. It's like, no, it's like there's just, the word says this, but we're being led in this direction and it's kind of not gelling right. The thing about it is I hit some pretty hard walls in my own journey. And I gotta get a man some credit again. Peterson was really kind of adamant about, you don't necessarily want to go yank somebody out of their belief system. It's dangerous, it's hella irresponsible, and it can cause a lot of harm. And that's something I had to kind of come to grips with, because like I said, people will come to me and kind of try to like bully me into their faith. And I'm like, okay, please stop. And I kind of had this like, okay, there's almost like an arrogance. Like, I know what you're trying to do better than you do. I've been you. I can do a better job than you're doing. And I also know how to poke holes in everything you're saying and destroy it. Yeah. So please just let's not go down this road. But I had to learn, don't necessarily go at it like that, because the biggest question is, if somebody has a belief system that they base their entire life on, their word, on their morality, their day-to-day, and you yank that away from them, where does that leave them? And so when he went and explained how that process worked, that scared the crap out of me. And I knew he wasn't lying because I've seen it. That is a very dark path. And most people are like, oh, well, if you leave your religion, you just go find something else to believe in. Not necessarily, because if this was a core pillar of who you are and it's gone, you can lose the ability to believe in anything. That's scary. 2, if you get upset at God or at creation itself, he tied that to a lot of the darkest, most evil things we've seen on this earth. He likes to go back and quote Nietzsche. A lot of atheists and non-believers and whatever categories. A lot of people like say, oh yeah, Nietzsche said God is dead. Nietzsche said God is dead. And he was like, yeah, if you read what he actually wrote, that wasn't a good thing. And then he starts breaking down. He's like, the full quote is, God is dead and we've killed him and there's not enough water to wash away the blood. Like our hands are dirty. And the problem is, what are we going to do now? Because without God as a guide, as a goal, as a focus, we got to come up with something else to keep everybody on the same path, to keep everybody on the up and up. And we don't have much else. Like, this is about to piss off the other group of people. But one of the replacements we brought in is science. That's a whole nother day.
Yeah.
But yeah, science is its own religion. It just doesn't want to be a religion, but it is. It takes a lot of faith to believe in science. Yeah. And doesn't have all the answers. And it's really a replacement for God. It's like, we don't want there to be an all-knowing being that controls life around us. We want to have our own way to do that and come up with this principle. And I'm like, that's all well and good, but what happens when that doesn't always line up? Like, you kind of got to make it line up a little bit.
And it's constantly getting rewritten and things are being re-hypothesized, and it's like, oh, we thought this thing about something, but it's actually this thing. It's like, it's literally a parallel to how the Bible works, you know, in terms of like, we believe this thing, or actually this translation now means this thing instead. And then, oh, we thought these things were dinosaurs, but they mean this thing over here instead. Like, there's so many things.
The biggest fight is the timeline of the earth, because if according to the Bible, it's 6,000 years that we've been on the planet, because we look at it as a literal timeline. And then science is like, no, the earth has been around for billions of years, and the universe and the Big Bang, and this was the whole debate. It's one or the other.
Interesting fact, I did see a video that said that the reason humans, the reasons humans lived longer back then, but also the reasons that humans and dinosaurs could coexist was because the oxygen in the atmosphere was different back then.
Tell me that one. I thought that was
it changed. I just saw it today. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting theory that would be a thing. But even then, that's now both a crossing of biblical theory and also science theory. Like, was oxygen different back then? Were people living longer? Did dinosaurs and humans live together? Those are things that can be talked about.
There was talk about the flood. The whole, like, there's a debate of whether there was ever a worldwide global level flood or not. A lot of science is like, no, there's no evidence to show that there was a flood that covered the whole globe. But if you read the Bible literally, it said the whole earth. So it's like that's the other go back and forth. There's a lot of stuff like that where then there's people who then have proofs from science that show that it did happen to kind of counter that. And there's people who like look at the word in a different way. Like, well, if you look at it, it didn't technically say it had to be like that. That's kind of how we took it. So like, it's crazy to me to see the back and forth, and a lot of stuff there just aren't answers for. There's some stuff we're just not gonna know, and neither side wants to accept that. They just want to be right. And that's where I kind of am like, nobody's right. Nobody knows everything.
It was a long time ago. They didn't have journals back then. At least you could paper journals and stuff. So it's like, you're not going to get the exact answers of all this stuff.
And we kind of got to allow for that. Real quick on the science thing, for all the people that are like, no, science is right and this and that. And I'm like, because, you know, Pluto was a planet for most of my life.
It still is for me.
It was really, really difficult for me to be like, what you mean it's not a planet? I learned 9 planets out of this little acronym that we had to do. Yep. Took tests on it. Like, this is truth. Now you're telling me it's not the truth no more. And not only is Pluto not a planet, there's another non-planet next to it and a whole bunch of more of them. And what? And then now they're talking about another planet, because Pluto was supposed to fulfill a hole in a math equation, and they found it. Like, that's it. But they were like, but it's not big enough to fulfill that. So they're like, is there another planet? And I'm like, what? Y'all can't make more planets. Like, I've been here a long time for us to still be discovering planets.
I know, right?
We got Hubble telescopes and all. We still finding planets.
We're still sending spacecrafts and robot things to Uranus and Neptune. So
it's a lot. It's a lot. Like, they just started sending back the pictures from Pluto like a year or so ago. Like, I remember went to one of those science centers. And like, we got the first pictures back from Pluto earlier this year. And I was like, what? But apparently they sent a probe, and it just took like 20 years to get there. And I was like, that's crazy. So they're like, yeah, all the stuff we thought we knew about Pluto, that's not what it is. That doesn't make sense at all. Now that we can see it closely, that's not what happened. What? So it's just a lot. And I was like, the more I thought I was finding answers, the more questions I found. And so you really kind of have to hit a point where you're like, okay, I don't have to have an answer. I don't have to know the truth. And if you can hit that point and mean it, then you can go on this journey and explore, because there's a lot out there. And you have to let go of, I have to be right.
Right.
And you have to let go of, I have to understand it. Because like you brought up the whole stars thing earlier. And that would be one where people are like, oh, Christians don't look into that kind of stuff. We're talking about like the zodiac wheel.
Yes, zodiac. Thank you. I think of the word earlier.
People who didn't quite catch what the stars was. But yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, if you want, we can go into the Bible for it, because it definitely talks about how God said that the moon and the stars will be set for signs and seasons for them, for the people.
And how the three wise men followed the North Star, whatever it was, to get to Jesus. Like,
I'm actually still digging into that one. I got some theories about the wise men, about Melchizedek. Holla at me if you want to. If you know something about Melchizedek, for real, get at me in the comments. We can talk. And there's a couple more, but there's some little offshoots that I was like, yo, these are interesting. What is this about? Because they're in there. Like I said, there's a lot of books that did not make it into the Bible. And that got my attention, because there's books that are in other cultures' version of the official Bible. Like Enoch. The book of Enoch is kept in certain versions of certain people's faiths, but it's cut out of the Bible we know. Okay, so what's up with that?
Yeah, why do you think they would keep other? Well, why do you think they would keep those other books out? Then also, like, people that
get weird, bro. They get so weird.
People that are like hard followers of the Bible, some of them find that blasphemous that you would even suggest that there are other books that aren't in the Bible.
That's how I was raised, where the Bible is God's infallible word. It's the basic instructions before leaving earth. This was the present God gave us to understand how to live and make it into heaven. And so I see that as, okay, I need to know this thing cover to cover, because this is the key to life, right? That's why. What else would it be? Why are we only looking at this thing once a day? I mean, once a week. We go into this for an hour once a week, and it's the key to life.
Yeah.
What? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, the way they describe hell doesn't sound like fun. And they're like, yeah, if you don't get it right, that's where you go forever. Forever. So I was like, I kind of want to take this a little serious, right? Can we read it? Can we look into it? What does it say about this? What does it say about that? How do they feel about this? What should we do here? And a lot of those answers are, well, not clear. What? I can show you right now in the Bible where it tells you don't get married.
Really? This is new to me. This is, again, one of these fascinating things. Like, what is that about? Like, what's the context of that?
It was the letter. Man, you know how like the New Testament has the four Gospels, the stories of Jesus walking the earth, and then there's Acts, which is like the story of the apostles, the disciples right after. After that, it's all the names of places like Romans and Corinthians and Thessalonians, and like, what is all that? Those are names of places where they had churches. So these are letters that the apostles wrote to the people at the church. And so they're like, hey, I heard there's some things going on that are going wrong. Let me give you some advice until I can get there. You know, I'm going to send this letter. You know what I'm saying? I sent the dude, listen to him. He's a good dude. Work with that. But in the meantime, these are some of the issues y'all have. And let me break down how I feel about it. And so in one of those, he was like, so people are talking about, should you be married? Should you not be married? If you're unmarried, he was like, if you're unmarried, stay unmarried. If you're married, stay married. Neither one is wrong. Neither one is evil. You should be in the condition you are, basically because we don't have a lot of time left. When Jesus left, he said, I will be right back.
Okay.
And he said, literally, there are people here today who will be here when you see me return in the clouds. So they was like, is it today? Is it today? So in that condition, people squabbling over, oh, well, you shouldn't get married or you should get married. And he was like, look, it doesn't matter. We about to be out of here tomorrow. Chill. Just maintain, just occupy. He coming back like in a week. Just chill out. And so, but it literally was like, if you're not married, don't get married. There's no point. We about to be out of here.
Yeah.
So the way the church was like, well, it was kind of the condition of the time. So clearly we see we're still going to be here for a while. So the Bible also says to occupy until he returns. So no, you should live your life the best you can. Just be aware that he could come back at any moment. So there's kind of like a workaround. But if we're going to go literal, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. It's just literal. Like it's scary if it's literal.
Oh my god.
So just stuff like that. I'm just like, so what do we do with that? And I mean, I used to drive that same pastor who I told you A to Z, Genesis to Revelation, broke the whole thing down. I drove him nuts because I was like, question. I wouldn't do it in front of the congregation though, because like,
of course,
I don't want to mess nobody up because they might not have read this part and it might be cool where they are. So stay happy. But I have a question because right here, this said, yeah. So then you was talking about the stuff that got taken out.
The Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff.
It's weird to say taken out. It's kind of a misnomer. Like it wasn't included in what's considered canon or the official Bible.
Okay.
So it's not to say necessarily it was taken out, like it officially was and then it wasn't anymore. It's kind of like the whole Bible is a collection of different books and letters. So these are all the various books and letters, and then different people had different ones. I kind of related to like collecting comics. Like if you're a Marvel fan, you got the Black Panther series, you got the Avengers, you got Thor, you got Captain America, and then there's some offshoots too. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some Marvel comics that are not officially canon.
Yeah.
Or like Star Wars. You got the movies, and then you got the cartoons and stuff now, and then you got like some comic series. And somebody had to be like, okay, look, there's a lot of information out there. We're telling a single story. These things are canon. These are not. It's the same word. So in the Bible, they were like, look, there's a lot of different stuff out there. This is the canon. This is the main stuff that we all say is the Bible. There's some other fan fiction out there. There's some other books that are pretty close that maybe could have been included. There's 4 specifically that people are like, these probably are from the original and kind of got shifted out.
Okay.
But there's some that are so far off, you're like, that don't even need to be here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh my God, there's some weird stuff, bro.
Oh my gosh.
But then again, there's some weird stuff in the Bible too. So
yeah,
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with all of it. But as far as like, should I tell people, oh, don't believe in this, you're stupid? And definitely not, for one, because you don't know either. What you believe in is probably stupid too. But at the same time, it's not stupid to believe in it. You should believe in something and just try to understand it. And when you hit those places where you can't understand it, try. But, look for other things, research more. Yeah. There's a verse that talks about everyone has to work out their own salvation through fear and trembling. That don't sound like an easy process to me. That don't seem like something you just kind of can read a little bit, go once a week to a class and kind of, you're going to get your diploma. That's not what this is. This is like soul searching, up nights crying, lost in the wilderness level stuff. If you really want to go there. And I'm over here like, so anybody who's like critiquing from the armchair on the phone, comfortable in front of their laptop, telling somebody else how to live their life as a Christian. All right, bro, do you? Yeah. Anybody who out there judging people, like, you can't do this, you shouldn't do that, the word says this. I'm really like, do that for your own, for yourself and for your tribe.
Yeah.
If there's someone out there in your church, on your deacon board, your praise and worship leader, your pastor, and they live in a life that don't follow that book, get up. That's what that's for. Tell them, look, you off. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. If it's somebody who says, I ain't got nothing to do with that book, why are you judging them by that book? That's not their book. Yeah. That's not their rules. So that's really my take on it. Like, okay. There is a thing in the word that says iron sharpens iron. You're supposed to hold your brothers and sisters to the fire. But it does say evangelize, go out and preach the gospel to the world. The gospel is supposed to be good news. If you're not telling us good news, what are we talking about?
Like, what's your point? Yeah.
Are you preaching the word or are you beating people over the head with it? And that's the people I really like engage with. If you come at me with some scriptures to use to judge me, I will cut you to pieces with those same scriptures. I promise you. But if you coming out of love, like, hey man, I care about you. I don't want to see your soul burn eternally in hell. Can we have a conversation? Or to quote the scripture, come let us reason. I'll come and reason all day.
Because it's the thing of like they're opening up to like say, hey, I want to have a conversation, but I'm not going to judge you depending on how this conversation is, versus I'm already coming at you with judgment. Because I've had people like that don't even know me walk up to me and like say at a mall at me place like, hey, do you believe in Jesus? I'm like, you're already coming at me with a lot, and you don't even know what my situation is or what I believe. You're just assuming you're going to have to come at me with this thing of I'm going to just give you all this about the word because like you need to believe, and it's like, what if I already believe? Like I've done it where people be like, do you believe in Jesus? I'll be like, yes. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I had to come to grips with that because I keep asking that question all the time, and I'm over here like I told you about the whole being hypocritical and like I don't want to say something I don't believe, so I don't want to sit here and go back and forth with you. But I'm like, I also don't want to feel like I lied. So I really had to come to grips with that question. Because like I said, I get asked a lot. I used to just dodge it and avoid it, but you can't always do that. And then two, it's something I should know. Like I feel like I should know where my status is. And for a while, I was like, I really honest to God was like, I told God directly. I prayed quite often. I had a very strong relationship with God. And I was like, I need a minute. Straight up and down. I need a break. It got too deep. I can't function in life and understand what's going on. I need a minute. And that was a real conversation. That was my prayer. But I was also like, but if you need me, I got you. If you're sending me to somebody, if you're, calling me to deliver a message or somebody needs some encouragement or whatever, I'm still on team. I'm still, following orders, but I can't operate at this level is where I was at.
Right. You were going hard in college too, man. Like, so I get it. Cause it felt like a burnout at some point. Like, man.
I mean, I took it there. Like there's some stuff I could tell y'all, you be like, you did what? Yeah, I was all in. And there's people that was there like, no, yeah, dude, but it was just like, it's a lot. And so I can't function as a turn or burn type of person. I can't function. I have to go and make sure everyone hears it from me because not everybody needs to hear it from you. Like, especially in this country, most people have heard something about Jesus. That's just real.
Like, it's
now,
not
what they heard, huh?
So it's not a name people don't know. What's this Jesus you're talking about? Like, even in passing, people have heard.
This one right in America, the United States of America, one nation under God. You think most of these people haven't heard about God and the nation under God? Like, now there may be some things you don't agree with that they heard about, but they heard about it. So they can find a Bible. You just get a hotel room. You trying to take your girl and smash real quick. You get a little room, and it's in the drawer. There's a Bible in every hotel room, basically. Like, so the opportunity is there. People, you can't go that far without passing the church. So, if it's somebody in a remote part of the world they never heard, I get it. But here, So that's all. Operate in love, plain and simple. It's the number one directive. You're supposed to love God and love each other. Yeah. That is the commandments. Jesus' words. How do we live? Love God, love your neighbor. Other than that, what are we talking about? Yeah. People was arguing over everything. Should we eat meat? Should we not eat meat? Why does it matter to you? Do you feel convicted eating meat? Stop eating meat. It's real simple. What about him? Do you feel convicted eating meat? No, I feel good about it. You good then. Why are you worried about his life? Let him worry about his life.
Oh my God, so true.
If you don't about, read the New Testament. All them letters. All of them.
Oh my God, we could be talking about this all night, but as you know, we got other things to do tomorrow. So
I didn't expect us to go this long, to be honest. I was like,
I didn't either. I was like, I thought we'd go bed, but like we can completely do a part 2 of this anytime because
But yeah, this is how I am. I'm like, I talk about what we're talking about. I just really enjoy conversation. I really enjoy just perspectives, and I'm studying and researching all the time. So there's always something, and if I don't know something, I'm about to go find out about it. Trust me. So you bring something up, say, let's talk about that. Give me like 2-3 days, and I come back to you damn near expert on the subject because I don't want to feel like I don't know something. I don't want to sit here and lie to people and tell them stuff I don't believe and I don't know.
Yeah, and if we do disagree on something or a point about a subject, it's like at least want to be able to be knowledgeable enough to explain why that is, even if it's like whether it's ignorance of my own or just I have a strong opinion about some stuff. It's like it's nice to have that to be able to say like, hey, Because like if we had an atheist on the show, we wouldn't be like, hey, your points or whatever. It's just like, hey, we want to know your perspective of what you feel. We want to explain what we feel, and we can just decide to agree or disagree, or just realize that we have interesting perspectives. Like,
yeah. And it really comes down to like, you got to work it out for yourself. Can't nobody save you. You know what I'm saying? Your grandma can't make you saved. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And your grandma can't make you unsaved. There is something about the parents, but that's not what we're talking about. But so yeah, just live your life. Make sure you good. And I'll say this: if you feel strongly convicted to go speak to somebody specifically, by all means. I had a family friend decide that she had to tell me something that the Lord told her about my life. And I'm like, I respected her and her walk. I respected that she believed this was something she needed to convey to me. I didn't believe a word that she said had anything to do with my life when she said it, but I respected her enough to listen to it. Okay, let me hear what you got to say. Yeah. That don't line up with nothing else I know from any stage. So thank you. I appreciate it. Follow what you believe you need to do, but you don't have to accept everybody's word either.
That's very true. Very true indeed.
So that's that. Just, live your life. Be good with what you believe in. And to the people who aren't anywhere near this Christianity thing, what you believe in, I'm going to tell you like the monks told me, follow who you follow. If you got a path, follow that path. And if you follow it far enough, hard enough, sincere enough, I believe we'll all get there. And that's really where I'm at with it. So
yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, man. Well, this is thanks for tuning in, people. Leave your comments down below. We'd love to hear about what your thought was about what we talked about religion, about Bible stuff, about whatever you want to do. Just leave a comment down. If you have anything you want to hear about us talk about, because we will talk about darn near anything, as you guys know by now. Then leave a comment.
Pretty much talked about anything at this point.
I know, right? And by the way, thank you for you people that have been commenting on our videos, because we really do read those comments. We take them to heart. We're glad that we're able to get messages out, and that even if we're having points that are different from yours, or that you feel get more informed, that there's a dialogue there that seems to be very, very positive. So thank you for that. Share this with your friends, and keep on watching and subscribe to this channel so you can get notices about all the YouTube stuff people say. So, and
throw some topics out there too, because we can come up with stuff all day. But if y'all like, oh, what about this? We will go there.
Oh yeah. If you have anything you want us to follow up on, also we'll do that too. So
aliens, ask us about aliens.
Oh my God, I almost asked about it in this show, but that'll be for another show. So anyway, y'all,
it's all good.
Thanks for watching the No Cap Zone. We will see y'all next time. Out.